Great, thanks, Ian. Okay, cool. So, and I promise we will have plenty of time for questions after I start, but my name is Ryan Provost. I'm the Director for Student Services and Graduate Studies here in the Department of Educational Studies. Appreciate y'all joining us today to learn about comps and candidacy. My colleague Ian O'Donnell is here. He is our Assistant Director for Recruitment and Enrollment in the department. And after this session, and we're able to answer your questions, we hope that you'll be able to understand the timeline for navigating comps and candidacy, describe what necessary steps there are for completing your comps and candidacy, and then identify some resources available to you for support with the process. The first resource obviously is our office. So if you have questions, please reach out to myself, to Ian, to our general edstudies@osu.edu email account. We are happy to help, in addition to, of course, your advisors and your faculty members who support you along the way. But we are always here and happy to help. So I do want to address the difference between the PhD versus the EDD a little bit. I'm an EDD student myself, so I am in this situation with all of you as well. And the journey to your exam and ultimately your graduation will differ from your peers, whether it's a different program or whether it's the PhD versus the EDD. It'll look a little different depending on your program. So some things are applicable to everyone, but some things are very specific to each program area. And the requirements for each degree is different, but it will lead to the same outcome, which is getting your degree. We want you to be aware of the language and how it's utilized and interpreted differently for the graduate school for the PhD versus the EDD. So for example, candidacy is language that is very specific to the PhD, right? So us EDD students, when we complete our what's called our professional exams instead of candidacy exams, we are not in candidacy technically, but for the intents and purposes of the graduate school, a lot of what is happening is going to be similar, but the language is going to look a little different depending on which degree you're going for. So we'll clarify that. And if you have questions along the way about those differences, again, we're always happy to help with those. So as you're preparing for your candidacy exams or your professional exams, there's a checklist of things we always want you to consider as you're doing so. So the first is meet with your faculty advisor. Make sure you're on the same page and that you have completed all the degree requirements necessary before you go into your exams, so that you have the GPA that's required, that you've got the correct number of credit hours, that your courses are correct, that you have done the things that are required of you in order to get to that checkpoint of the exam start time. You'll want to make sure that you have submitted, if you're a PhD student, your degree plan for your PhD, an annual review to our office, the Office of Student Services and Grad Studies. Your advising report should have a complete list of your courses. And then the same for EDD students. It just didn't all fit on one slide. So the same thing for EDD students, you'd want to submit your degree plan to us. And again, your advising report should kind of guide you there. This next point is very important, and we have noticed that some students have missed something with this. So you'll want to make sure you're registered for a minimum of 3 graduate credit hours during any semester which you will be taking your candidacy or professional exam. So as an example, we have had students take their written exam during one term and then their oral exam during another term. It's just spanned that amount of time where it didn't all fit in one semester. You need to be registered for at least 3 graduate credit hours during both semesters in that situation. So if the date range of your written exam happens in the summer term, for example, but your oral exam doesn't happen until the autumn, you need to be registered for 3 credit hours during both the summer and the autumn. Many students mistakenly think that they only have to be registered for 3 credit hours during the semester they're doing their oral exam, and that is not the case. And we have had students have to pay late fees because they have to go retroactively register for credit hours during the term they were taking their written exam. And we want to avoid that situation, obviously. So make sure you take note of that important point. Another thing is you'll want to make sure that all your fees are paid. You will not be allowed to take your oral exam or if you have any outstanding unpaid fees for tuition or any other kind of fees. So make sure that you have all those paid. You'll need to make sure your GPA is at least a 3.0. You will need to go online into grad forms to submit your application for candidacy if you're a PhD student, or your application for your professional exam if you're an EDD student. As far as timing of the grad forms, we will talk about that a little bit more as the session goes on, but just know that the latest you can get your application for your exam approved is no later than 2 weeks prior to when your oral exam is scheduled. So that is the absolute latest, but you can always get it submitted earlier than that if you would like. You'll also want to make sure that your advisor has approved your application for candidacy or professional exam once you have submitted it. And we'll show you how you can check that, that approval, because you do have access to see who has approved it. You'll also want to make sure that you have satisfactorily completed your exam after it's over, and that the results of your exam have been submitted by the members of your committee and your advisor. So again, we will show you exactly how you can log into grad forms to check the status of that approval.
Ryan, quick question really beforehand. In the chat, we had a question for, are the degree program and annual review forms available in Buckeye Link?
That's a great question. I'm not sure. I'll wait till the end of the presentation, and we can explore that a little bit more.
Sounds good.
I want to get into maybe some nitty gritty into what's being asked there. So I'll keep trucking, and then we'll get to that at the end. So don't forget the question. Thank you. So grad forms. Many of you may have been in grad forms already. If you've needed to transfer in credit from a master's degree, you may have submitted that transfer credit, or if you took some graduate non-degree classes to transfer in some credit for that. So some of you may have been in grad forms already. Some of you may not have touched it yet. Regardless, we want to make sure we go over the specific grad forms for the exam process here. So once you get into grad forms, which is just gradforms.osu.edu, you would go up to those graduation and examination forms. Then, as you can see, there is the application for candidacy form. It is the second one from the top there, and that is what you would want to do regardless of PhD or EDD. That is the one that you would do there. So once you're in grad forms, once you create a form, you'll see different status symbols next to your form to indicate kind of where it is in process. So one that I definitely want to make sure you're aware of is new. If your form that you have started says new, that means it has not been submitted, right? So you may have filled in all the information, you may have everything completed in the form, but if it says new, that means you have not completed the submission. You want to make sure you hit the submit button. And once you see that orange pending status, that means you have submitted it and it is that it's in the queue. So we have had students reach out to us. They'll say, no one's taken any action on my form yet. We can't even see it because it hasn't been created yet or submitted yet. And it's typically because it has that new status there. So just make sure you make note of that. The other thing I want to point out is the difference between these two pending status indicators that you see. So if it just says pending, that means that we are waiting for some level of approval from our department, either your advisor, possibly our office. If it's the report on the result of your candidacy exam, a member of your committee has not signed off on it yet. So one of those are the case. If it says pending GS, that means everything at the department level has been completed. If it's your application for your exam, that means everyone has signed off at the department level that you are good to go. If it's the result of your exam, that means everyone has signed off and given their result for your exam. And it's just waiting grad school review at that point. That's what the GS stands for. So it's at the grad school level and it's there to review. An important thing to note there is with the deadlines we talk about and the deadlines we're going to refer to, if your form is at that pending GS level, there's no need to panic. The grad school, when they set their deadlines, what they're looking for is everything to be approved and submitted to them. So pending GS means you're in a good spot. Especially when we get to the really busy times towards those deadlines, if you're finishing or taking your exam right at that deadline, it may take a little while for the grad school to process everything. So give it a little bit of time. Just know that pending GS is a good sign. And then those are the big ones. Approved and completed are obviously like, that means that everything has been approved, it's in the process, it's moving forward. Obviously, if it's denied, it means at some point along the way, something was incorrect or you did not successfully complete complete your exam. And then canceled if you ever go through and just decide, oh, I'm not going to be able to, if you realize like I'm not going to be able to do my exam at this time, or I need to push it to a later term or date, you can cancel it and then create a new one. So to submit your application for your candidacy exam, this is what it's going to look like. We just want to show you so you can see, as you can see on here, you can put the specific dates that you are planning to take the written portion of your exam. And then I want to point out that something you will need to know going into submitting this application, you will need to have your oral exam scheduled, meaning the date, the time, and if it's going to be in person, you need to have the room secured and reserved, and you need to be able to put that here in this form. If you're going to defend your exam virtually or complete your exam virtually, you just have to put that it's going to be virtual, and you don't have to include a link at this time or anything. You don't have to create the Zoom link, for example. You just have to put that it's going to be virtual and it's going to be, say, on Zoom, and that will be fine. Pre-COVID, you had to petition in order to have your exam conducted virtually. Post-pandemic, the grad school is no longer requiring any kind of petition. So if you hear anyone say you have to petition to hold your exam virtually, that is no longer the case. Anyone can select to hold their exam virtually as long as there's a way for everyone on your committee to participate fully in the exam. You are completely fine to hold it virtually, and there is no need to petition beyond that. You would just need to indicate it on this application for your candidacy exam.
Ryan, quick question again related to this. Can they change that oral defense date after submitting this form?
They would just need to reach out to our office. We may need to either reach out to the grad school and see if they want an entirely new form created, or if they are able to, on the back end, change and alter that date. But that's why it's really important to have as much information nailed down as possible when you create this form, because it does just add an extra layer of complication if you end up having to change the date of your exam. The reason being is that the date of your exam determines when your committee members have access to approve your exam results, right? So that form for your committee to approve is generated on the day around the time of your exam when it's scheduled. So that's why, it's because of that back end piece. This is just another place where you can see, and we will talk about the advisors and the faculty that you have on your committee. The thing I do want to point out here is we are going to talk about category P versus category M. When you enter in your faculty names on this form, you will be able to see, it'll show you whether they are category P or M. So if I talk about that later and you have questions about how do I know if they're P or M, it does say in grad form, so you will be able to see that there. We'll also talk about external members and what that means and looks like in a little bit. But I do want to make sure to say here, this is where a lot of people get confused with the new versus submitted applications. They'll hit the save and continue button at the bottom here, but then not hit the submit button on the next screen. So you do want to make sure once you hit that save and continue, you also hit submit on the next screen. So once you are have submitted your application, you can go back in and see what your form looks like and see anything that's missing. This is an example of a completed report on candidacy. So this is the form you would see that is generated once your exam begins. This is one that is completely complete. So you can see where the advisor, the co-advisor in this situation, and the two committee members, they have put in that they satisfactorily completed the exam. You can see the timestamp and the date when they did it. You can see the grad school went through and did their thing. If you're looking at this, just go in. If you're looking for this information, you would simply go to the particular, whether it's your application for the candidacy exam or the result of your candidacy exam through the report on candidacy exams. You would just go to that particular exam and click on the history tab. So if you get any communication from the grad school or from myself or our office saying something is missing, go to that form, click history, and you will see exactly what's missing and who needs to submit something. Timeline-wise, you need to make sure that in order to take your exams, you must be in good academic standing and register for those 3 credit hours, as I mentioned earlier. You have 30 days after the date of your written exam to complete your oral exam. So let's say you completed your exam today on September 14th. You would have until October 14th to complete your oral exam. You must have your application for candidacy or professional exam in grad forms at least 2 weeks before your oral exam date. But like I mentioned earlier, you can certainly get that submitted as soon as you have your oral exam scheduled. I do get some questions quite often on who can be on committees. So I'll talk about that a little bit. So obviously your advisor will be on your committee. For PhD students, your advisor must have P status. And for EDD students, your advisor, I want to say ours because I'm also an EDD student, so I will, why not? Our advisor must have M or P status. They can have either. You can also see some other things that are there, some requirements. Just know that that we would not let an advisor get assigned to you if they didn't have the appropriate faculty status. So that's typically not an issue that we encounter, just something we like to clarify for folks. One thing that is required is that they must be a faculty member in our home department. So Ed Studies, they do have, the grad school does require that all of your advisors be within the Department of Ed Studies. Further, our department, Ed Studies, requires that your advisor be from your specific program. So I'm in the Higher Ed Student Affairs program. I could not have an advisor who is a counselor education faculty member. My advisor has to also be Higher Ed Student Affairs. And again, this is something we ensure from the get-go, so it's typically not something that folks have to worry about. But if you were to try to change your advisor to a faculty member in a different program, then we would let you know that's just not possible. Now, beyond your advisor, your committee members, for PhD students, you must have 4 members of your committee, and that does include your advisor. You can have more if you choose, but 4 is the minimum. EDD students, we must have 3 members on your committee, and that includes your advisor. They may be assigned to you depending on some various factors, or you may have the ability to choose. That's something for you to consult with your advisor about. Your committee members must have more than 50% teaching faculty load in their contract and must have M or P status. So PhD students, your faculty advisor has to have P status, but your other committee members can have either M or P. And then you can have external members, but they must be in addition to the required minimum members of your committee. So an external member cannot count as one of your 4 required members if you're a PhD student, or your 3 if you're an EDD student. They have to be in addition to those committee members. I do want to talk a little bit more about external members before I go to the next slide. So if you are going to have an external member, you do have to complete a petition to have them serve on your committee. What that petition entails is you have to submit their CV, and that's basically it. And then we would review and approve that, and the grad school would approve it. It is another form in grad forms. So you just go into grad forms, submit that petition, and under the petition, there are several things you can petition for. You would petition for an external member.
Brian, really quickly, could you, we have a question about, could you clarify the meaning of an external member on a committee? What would be an external member?
So, an external member is typically someone who maybe has expertise in the particular field that you are in, but isn't a current faculty member at Ohio State. So external means external to the university. So if someone from, say, the Department of Teaching and Learning, or from the John Glenn College of Public Affairs, were to have some expertise in the area of your exam or your dissertation, perhaps, they would be not considered external. But if it were, say, someone from the community or from a different university, a lot of times we see like someone who was a faculty member when you started your program, but has since left to go to another university. If they did not petition for continuous service, then they would be an external member. Again, if you have any specific questions about that, where someone would fall in there, feel free to reach out to me directly and I can help guide you in that process. But that's a great question. Graduate faculty representatives are can be requested for PhD students if you would like one to sit in on your exam. What a graduate faculty representative is a faculty member from outside our department, typically outside our entire College of Education and Human Ecology, who sit in on the exam, are a voting member of the committee, but are there to kind of ensure that there is fairness in the process. They participate fully, they get a vote on whether or not you successfully completed the exam, whether you pass or fail. They are assigned by the graduate schools. They are not assigned by the department or by anyone in our department, but by the grad school. And they're there to kind of make sure everything is being run correctly. They will halt the exam if there's some sort of concern that arises that can't be resolved in that setting. They do have that power and authority to do that if they feel the need to do so. Now, if you were to say fail your first exam, which no one here will, but if say you were to fail your first attempt at your exam and were given a second attempt to complete your exam, a grad faculty representative would automatically be assigned to your committee to just make sure that everything is done correctly there. And just for clarity, a grad faculty representative will be assigned to every PhD student's final dissertation defense. There's no like if, ands, or buts about it. They will be assigned to that. So yeah. As far as preparing for your oral exam, you'll want to make sure that you connect with your advisor about everything that will be needed. The exams, there's not a set way that exams are conducted. They can vary from advisor to advisor, from program to program. So you'll really want to make sure that, that you have clarity on what is expected of you from your exam, from your advisor. The biggest thing that the grad school is looking for is that you as a student can produce the rigorous academic byproduct that's most important to your specific area. We've seen things ranging from journal articles, creating a portfolio, creating the first 3 chapters of your dissertation, answering questions from your committee. It really varies and is different from program to program. You'll also want to decide if your exam will be in person or online. We've seen a lot more online recently, but you can do whatever is most comfortable and convenient for you and your committee. You'll need to make sure to reserve a room if it's going to be in person. And we do on our u.osu.edu/edstudies website that we can send, we'll send that in a follow-up to this presentation. We do have email that you can schedule those room requests if you're looking to reserve space either in Ramsire Hall or Pays, which is where most of our programs are located. And then you'll obviously, before your exam, want to identify who your full committee will be. And you will work with your advisor on that process as well. The results of your exam must be agreed upon unanimously by your committee for you to pass. So if any one member of your committee says you failed your exam attempt, then you failed your exam attempt. It's not majority rule. It has to be a unanimous pass in order for you to pass. That report on your exam results, like I mentioned earlier, is generated typically the day of your oral exam by the graduate school. And the grad school, I know, tries to get those generated pretty close to the time of the start of your exam. You will want to make sure that your committee goes in pretty quickly after the exam is concluded to render their decision, but they typically have about 48 hours to put their decision into grad forms. And then this is an important point that a lot of students have questions about. PhD students, you will become a candidate the term after you pass your oral exam. So if you pass your oral exam, if your oral exam was today on September 14th, 2023, you will not become a candidate on September 15th, 2023. You will become a candidate in spring 2024, whatever the first day of spring semester is. I don't know off the top of my head, but you become a doctoral candidate the following term after your oral exam. Now, like I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, for EDD students, once you pass your professional exam, there's no formal term or status for you. You're not a EDD candidate. There's no distinction there necessarily like there is for PhD students. That's where some of that terminology that the grad school uses comes into play. Now, I already talked a little bit about if you don't pass your candidacy exam, and obviously this won't apply to any of you, but for the sake of talking about the what ifs, if a student were to fail their written portion of their exam, they can waive the oral portion. You don't have to go through and complete the oral portion if you did not successfully complete the written portion. You'll just want to make sure to inform us, and we will help you with informing the grad school of the decision to waive your oral exam and move that to a different time. And you'll want to be in communication with your advisor because if you were to fail your exam, it is up to the discretion of your advisor whether or not you would be allowed to even have a second attempt. That is not guaranteed by the grad school or by the university. It is up to their discretion. Now, it's rare that an advisor would deny a second attempt, but you want to be in close communication with them to see if that would be allowed. And then the next step after, if they say yes, it will be allowed, is to make a reasonable time frame for when that second exam will be held. It can't be years after the first exam. It has to be pretty shortly after. Like, you got to tighten some things up, you got to fix some things, and then you got to take it again. It can't be, years down the line. So reasonable time frame is kind of up for interpretation, but we're talking, maybe another semester or so, not another year, typically. And if a student fails their second attempt at the candidacy exam, you are no longer eligible to continue in your doctoral program. So it's a hard stop. There is no third attempt. So just know you get up to two shots at it. So in terms of what candidacy, or for EDD students, what your post-professional exam time looks like. So you reach that status, which means that you are proficient in your field of study, and you are ready to pursue your dissertation at that point. So that is what candidacy or your post-professional exam time, that's what it essentially means for you. While you're in candidacy, you're expected to maintain continuous enrollment. This is the same for EDD students. You must be enrolled in every autumn and spring term of your candidacy. And I apologize, I said that wrong. It only applies to PhD students. Strike that. PhD students must be enrolled in every autumn and spring term of your candidacy. You do not have to be enrolled for summer term unless you are graduating in the summer. So whatever term you're graduating, you have to be registered. So if you're graduating in summer, you have to be registered in summer. And when you're in candidacy, full-time status becomes 3 credit hours. So typically it's the dissertation research hours, 3 credits, that we see most PhD students registered for once they go into candidacy. EDD students, once we pass our professional exams, we still have to adhere to the registration policies for all graduate students. So just make note of that. Like I said, the doctoral candidates are typically in that 89.99, which is that dissertation research hours. 3 credit hours of that is what you're typically looking at. You do have to maintain good academic standing while you're a candidate, so a 3.0 GPA, and you have to maintain reasonable progress towards your degree. So that means you can't linger for years and years and years, right? You have to keep making progress towards completing your dissertation and your degree. The time starts once you become a candidate. So like in the example I mentioned earlier, if you completed your oral exam today, you would become a candidate in spring 24, and you would have 5 years starting in spring 24 to complete your dissertation, or your candidacy will expire. If it does expire, if those 5 years comes to pass and you have not completed your dissertation, you'd be subject to having to take a supplemental candidacy exam again in order to get a 2 years added to complete your dissertation. So you will no longer be a candidate after those 5 years unless you do a supplemental candidacy exam, which then adds 2 years to your candidacy. And if the dissertation is not complete within the agreed upon time frame, which if you get to that supplemental candidacy, you will be working with your advisor and our office to set a time frame on exactly when, semester by semester, you will be completing everything. And if you don't meet those criteria, you will be ineligible to continue in your doctoral program. So you'll want to make sure that you're following that pretty closely. I do want to mention a couple of funding opportunities for folks who are in candidacy. So the Presidential Fellowships is one that's at the grad school. These are fellowships that offer financial support for 3 consecutive semesters. The competition for these fellowships is held annually each autumn. So the application is actually open right now. You must be a PhD student with a 3.5 GPA, and you have to have passed your oral candidacy exam by the deadline that the grad school sets for fellowship, the Presidential Fellowship, which for 2023 is October 18th. So if you aren't completing your candidacy exam by that October 18th deadline, then you're not eligible, unfortunately, for this particular fellowship. If you have passed your candidacy exam by then, you are eligible. Nomination packets must be submitted to our Graduate Studies Committee in Ed Studies by October 4th, because Grad Studies has to submit their nominations to the graduate school by that October 18th date. So they need a little bit of time to review those applications and those nominations. It's a pretty extensive application, so I would encourage you to go to the grad school's website if you're interested, look up Presidential Fellowships, and get started on that process kind of immediately if you're interested in pursuing that one. There's also the alumni grants for graduate research and scholarship. This is also at the grad school level and provides small grants of up to $5,000, but typically around $2,000 to $3,000 is what most grants end up being for students to support the research and scholarship of doctoral or terminal master's degree candidates for their dissertation or for their thesis. This competition is also held annually each autumn and is currently open. The deadline for students to submit their nomination or their application is September 27th at 5 p.m. And you would submit your nomination packet to the grad school fellowship email address that you see here. If you're interested in that, or want to see more of what's required for that particular application for those grants, go to the grad school's website, and that information is also available there. Additionally, at the college level and the department level, we have dissertation fellowships that we award each year depending on the availability of funds. There's always at least one available, but sometimes more depending on funding situations. And those fellowships give you the opportunity to have funding for those. It varies on what it looks like, again, depending on funding. So it's, it just depends. And we'll be in communication with folks about what they would be awarded and what would be available when the time comes. That competition happens a little bit later. It's held in winter and early spring annually. So to give you some context, last year the nominations were due to us by January 20th. So that's when you're looking at it, but we'll typically announce it towards the end of the autumn semester. So you have, the autumn or the winter break to prepare everything that you would need. And when you get back in January, not long after that is when everything would be due. Look out in the Ed Studies student newsletter for information about that process a little bit later in the autumn term. And then I will stop there, and for our last 15 minutes, we can address questions. Ian, if you want to stop the recording, we will we'll field questions after that.